Good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson coming to you from bucolic Watertown, where we're looking for our inflatable flamingos, which apparently blew somewhere.
Wow.
They were on the top of the pool, and I don't know where they are now. We had a lot of wind last night and more coming today, so be apprised. I never thought about taking in the flamingos, It was not something that crossed my mind.
They were just floating around in the pool, huh?
Yeah, they're floating around in the pool, and now I can't find them. I don't know where they are.
They took flight.
They took flight. That's right. Listen, big news today. Mike Vrabel is out as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, and we want to jump right into that story because I think this is something that has a great deal of interest to our audience. And luckily, we have a sports station just down the hall, and just a cornucopia of people who are plugged into this story. And joining me now on the Newsmaker hotline is Mickey Ryan from the Blaine and Mickey Show, which is on the Zone every day from 1 to 3. Mickey, thank you so much for taking time out to help us understand this story. Before we get into who shot what and what happened and all of that, I want you to just take a moment to sort of talk about the Vrabel era with the Titans and the things that were accomplished and where we then how we got to where we are today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on for sure. And I think that the thing that a lot of people have asked me and asked Blaine and all of us on the show is, are we shocked by this? And the short answer is no. And so you said kind of go back. Well, for Mike Vrabel, it was a great beginning for him. He took over for Mike Mularkey. Mike Mularkey's last team had actually won a playoff game, but the Titans parted company with him. They chose Mike Vrabel to be the next coach, and they played for an AFC championship. They did that against Kansas City. That was the highest of highs that they reached. A couple of years later, they were the top seed in the AFC going into the playoffs, but had just a poor day in a lot of different ways, and 3 interceptions from the quarterback. All that's been discussed a lot in the sports world, but they were eliminated from the playoffs, and in the last couple of years they've had a losing record and didn't make the playoffs. And if you've been following this saga, or even if you haven't, the Titans hired a new general manager. They let go of John Robinson about a year ago, and they hired a guy named Ran Carthon, who came from the San Francisco 49ers organization. And as this season wore on and the Titans continued to lose ball games, you started to hear rumors, and a lot of this came through national reporting channels, that Mike Vrabel was unhappy with his situation, that he was unhappy with the power structure. And the day the season ended, on a Sunday, typically the next day you hear from the Titans head coach. We didn't hear from Mike Vrabel. And we were told he'll speak later this week. Well, that's never happened. And I was part of the scrum of reporters who went to the Titans locker room we call them exit interviews, so the players put their stuff in a trash bag and pack up to go. And we were speaking to Will Levis, who's certainly a central part of everything that's going to happen here going forward. And Will Levis said, well, somebody said, what do you think about these rumors of Mike Vrabel? He goes, well, I don't partake in rumors. And, I asked the man himself. And so somebody said, well, did you ask him? And he said, I did. And he said he'll get with us as soon as he knows the answer. Well, think about it. This is a coach that's under contract. What's to answer?
Yeah.
And so obviously there were meetings to come, and those meetings resulted, well, we all found out about 11 o'clock today, in Mike Vrabel being fired as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans.
I'm reading stories here that say there was a difference in philosophy between what Vrabel wanted and what the general manager wanted, and what the owner of the Titans wanted. So, do you think that was ultimately what it is? Vrabel wanted to go one way, and everybody else thought maybe that wasn't the right way to go.
Well, the last relationship between a coach and a general manager ended because John Robinson was fired again. And Mike Vrabel, obviously there's a power struggle there, and Mike Vrabel won that power struggle. He kept his job. John Robinson didn't keep his job. So Ran Carthon was hired. And, Brian, part of what we asked was, okay, who has final say? If there's a player, if there's a personnel move, if there's something that you guys are stuck on, who has the deciding vote? And I want to say one of them joked, well, of course, we're going to go to Amy for that. But do you think those guys are stuck on trading for a linebacker or not, and they're going to go ask Amy to evaluate the guy's tape?
Yeah.
So I think the thought is that the power play and the dynamic and, maybe the philosophy of do we embrace a true rebuild? Do we trade off more parts, or do we try to keep pressing on with what we have and add some things? I do believe that power play dynamic was the thing that ultimately was the demise of Vrabel there.
Well, tell me where you think Vrabel ends up ultimately. I mean, does he go and coach a college team? Does he land somewhere within the NFL? A lot of people looking for coaches right now. And, he has he has at one time he was the coach of the year, and so he has some people who think highly of him. What do you think will happen to Vrabel?
Well, I have no doubt, because I think Mike Vrabel's a good coach. Mike Vrabel's a good coach. I've talked to a lot of people around the league in league circles, and they all believe that Mike Vrabel's a good coach. There are 5 openings right now besides the Titans. I'm sure Mike Vrabel's agent will field calls from multiple of those 5 teams. And, the one to watch would obviously be the Patriots. Bill Belichick is there. They're not as successful as they were. Should the Patriots decide to part with Bill Belichick, I would imagine Mike Vrabel would be their first phone call. He was inducted in October into their Hall of Fame. He had his most success as a player there. They won a lot of Super Bowls. He had a lot of personal success. Robert Kraft, who's the owner there, seems to have a great affinity for him. So I would certainly expect to hear his name thrown around, but I would also watch what happens in New England, because if there's a Patriots move with Bill Belichick, I would imagine the Rolodex, the first number that'll be pulled up is for Mike Vrabel.
All right. And so then who comes in to become the new head coach of the Titans, in your estimation?
Well, now that's interesting, because I think a lot of Titans fans look at Mike, and he was a defensive-minded coach. So do they try to tap into one of these young offensive minds? You got the coordinator for the Lions. He's 37 years old. You got the coordinator for the Texans, a guy named Bobby Slowick. He's 36 years old. Are you the team that gives one of these young guys his first shot at being a head coach? Or possibly, do you tap into a candidate who's been around the league, a Steve Wilks, maybe Jim Schwartz, who's been on this staff twice before, and maybe he then brings in a young, innovative offensive staff with him that Amy Adams Strunk and the organization would be excited about. So she did an interview today that the Titans have put out. She said, we're going to look far and wide. We're going to cast a wide net. And, we're not just going to look for an offensive guy. We'll look for the best candidate. We'll see who they are aligned with as far as their staff. Then we'll pick the best choice.
One has heard the name Jim Harbaugh tossed around as, that he might be ready to make a move into the NFL. What do you think about that idea?
Well, Jim was extremely successful with the 49ers. He took them all the way to the Super Bowl as a head coach. Harbaugh has won a lot of games everywhere he's been. So he's still under contract, obviously, with the Michigan Wolverines, but I do think there's a prevailing sentiment that he will look for opportunities again in the National Football League. I wouldn't be surprised to see his name tied to any and every opening. Again, there are 6. It'll be interesting to see, but I do think Harbaugh is probably primed right now to make an attempt to go back into the NFL. So be it here or be it somewhere else, it'll be fascinating to see. He has ties for the Chargers. He played for them at one point during his long career as a player. So it'll be really interesting to see. But he's a name that I think every fan base is interested in because they know him and he's been successful everywhere.
What I'm hearing you say is that, Vrabel had skills, and clearly he had skills. He's thought of within the NFL as a very good coach. But it was the situation that he was in. I mean, a lot of people have been in situations where they feel like they're, they have the skills to do the job, but they don't have the support of the people around them in management. And it sounds like that maybe it just got to be a toxic situation between the 3 of them: the owner, the general manager, and the head coach.
I don't think there's anybody in that building down there that doesn't think he's a fine and a really good NFL coach. And he's won a lot of games here. Again, he took him to the AFC Championship game But I do think if an employee feels like a relationship has become untenable with a coworker, with maybe a dynamic between another coworker and the boss, and I'm talking to anybody, your listeners come from all walks of life.
Yep.
If you feel like a situation is untenable and you have an opportunity to air your grievances there, and your boss, who is ultimately, Amy Adams Strunk in this case, says, well, I don't agree with what you're saying. This is what I think should happen. And you say, I don't agree with that. Sometimes the way that things happen is you get up from the desk and you say, we need to part ways. And I think ultimately that's what it came to.
Yeah.
And real quick, Brian, I'm just to butt in real quick on that point, Mickey. You mentioned, butting heads, but you also mentioned he's a good coach. He's a hot commodity, and whether the decision to part ways with him was justified or not, wouldn't you say there's been reports that have indicated they were thinking about trading Mike Vrabel? And as you say, he's an asset. He could bring in picks, maybe even a player or two, but maybe it was just too complicated. It was going to take too long, be too long of a process, get them behind the eight ball and the head coaching candidacy. What do you think about that?
Well, for people who are listening, you can trade a coach. It's been done before, or trade the rights to a coach. NFL history shows that has been something that has happened multiple times. Bill Belichick was traded for by the Patriots. That's how he got there. So Amy Adams Strunk she did an interview. Again, it's on all the Titans social media channels. That was asked, why not try to trade him because he's under contract to another team? She said there are two aspects. Number one, and it's interesting, we had all kind of heard it's different than trading a player. I guess there's more time involved. You can call somebody and trade a player today as long as that's allowable during the NFL calendar during that part of the year. Amy Adams Strunk said it's more time consuming and it takes a while. And if you're going to make a move, we need to be able to start interviewing people and looking into candidates now. She said the other thing is the coach has to be a willing participant in this. And if they are not, you can't trade them. So she said that today in an interview with Mike Keith. So maybe he was not a willing participant to be traded.
Yeah. Well, are we going to hear from Vrabel before he goes?
Oh, gosh, no. The next time you hear from Mike Vrabel will be when he has the logo on of another team at an opening press conference.
All right, sounds good. Listen, Mickey Ryan, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking time out to be with us today on this breaking news story. And, of course, you can catch Mickey and his partner Blaine over at The Zone between 1 and 3 every day. Over, that's our sister station, so where we like to bring the family around when we have a good sports story. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Well, that's what happens when you got a station full of great stations. You can just go right down the hall for anything you need, and we feel that way about you guys. Thank you so much.
Well, yeah, and anytime, you need me to come over to The Zone and talk politics, I'll be happy to do that for you. Just, if it ever comes up.
we're going to keep you on speed dial for that, Brian.
All right, listen, I want to open up the phone lines now at 615-737-9986. Your thoughts about the departure of Vrabel. What's going on? What do you want to see happen? Let's take your calls here. Right now, it's 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. For many of you who've lived here for a long time, you already know that Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee. It's been the place to go for your European car repairs for the last 24 years. And it's been great to watch them grow. I don't know about you, but I enjoy watching a hometown business take off. And the folks over at Eurofix are now proud to announce their latest location for Eurofix now in Mount Juliet. That's right, on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you now in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and again, their new facility, lovely facility in Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you now get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So give them a call, 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com.
The Israel-Hamas war, Marsha Blackburn co-sponsoring a bill, and the FAA coming out today with another statement regarding the Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft. 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, Mac Morey, stick around because we're going to take some calls on this. We want to know, are you happy about the Vrabel decision? Are you happy? You sad? Are you mad? Was it a good decision? Was it about time? Or do you regret what they have done? 615-737-9986. We have some open phone lines. Love to get your thoughts about this. A big breaking story of the day. Mike Vrabel cleaning out his locker at Titan Stadium and will no longer be the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Will in Mount Pleasant, you're up next on The Drive. What do you say, Will?
Brian, thanks for having me. And it's funny to be calling in on a sports topic, but firing Vrabel would be like firing Chef Gordon Ramsay because he couldn't get a Michelin award by being forced to cook with Spam. I mean, the offensive line, the offensive coordinator, the GM, I can show you a bunch of faults with them, but if you look at the Steelers and some of these other programs that have continued success, it's not by flipping coaches every 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, and I that was not the part that needed to go away. That's all I got to say on that.
So what do you? Well, no. You can't just leave that one hanging.
my
So
bad.
tell me, what do you think needs to go away?
Well, the offensive coordinator's inept, and we need an offensive line. I mean, I'm sorry. If you spent too much money in other places, I mean, I don't care if you have a $50 million quarterback. If they are getting tackled when they take the snap, they can't do nothing with it. You know, I'd rather have a $7 million quarterback and a $100 million line because if he has time, anyone can find these receivers.
Right.
But with no time, you just can't do it.
Well, I sort of agree with you on that assessment. The O-line was a problem. Thanks a lot, Will. Ray in Cookeville, you're up next on The Drive. What do you say, Ray?
Hey, Brian, thanks for taking my call. I think the Titans really messed up. I think he's a very good coach. They're definitely not going to find anybody as good as him. And when they think about it, the people they traded away, the receivers, the defensive players that they've traded away the last couple of seasons, no wonder he had the season that he had. And their O-line, like the previous caller said, was terrible.
Yeah, so you who do you think should come in next? Well, who do you hope would come in next?
Definitely not the cheater from up north that stayed up north. We don't want him.
Yeah, come to Nashville and steal some signals. That's right. All right, Ray. Thank you for that. Let me get some other calls in here. Christian calling in from Gallatin. Christian, you're on with Brian on The Drive.
Happy New
Your
Year.
thoughts?
I like to hear you. I'm a
Good.
first-time caller, long-time listener.
Okay, well, tell me what you think.
Well, here it is. I think Mike Tomlin could be on the map for the Pittsburgh Steelers to be a coach. because he's not doing good at Pittsburgh. And we got Mike Tomlin down here to coach Tennessee. And if he's available, we'll get the guy from Cincinnati.
All right, Christian. Thank you for the call. Whit in Murfreesboro, you're up next on The Drive. What do you think, Whit?
Thank you very much for taking my call. I
Yep.
just have a quick question for Matt. I get irritated about people calling in and think they know how to do football things, and I'm not a professional, don't know the damn first thing about it, but I am a big Titan fan. My question is, you do the best you can to pick the right coach and the right players, but in the beginning of the season and during training camp, is it all about, in the end result, how the players mesh and how well they get along and how well they play? And you don't know really how the next season will come. And I'll listen to your answer off air. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mac, that was directed toward you.
Yeah, I didn't get the question though, Brian. I didn't hear a question mark at the end. What was the exact question?
Well, I think what he's asking is, isn't it ultimately how the team meshes, over the course of the season and out of training camp?
Okay, there we go. Yeah. And I think absolutely, it's how a team chemistry is, and it's how a culture and a locker room feels. But results are needed, and the last two seasons, obviously, Amy Adams didn't see the results she wanted. But as we've heard, opined by many callers and by Mickey Ryan, who joined the show, Brian, I mean, a lack of an offensive line and a lack of some skill weapons may have played a part in that. The great Bill Parcells says, you want me to be the cook, I need some ingredients in the kitchen as well.
Well, there's some real wisdom in that statement. No matter how good you are as a quarterback, you got to have an O-line that can give you time and protect you And clearly, that's where it's been lacking for the Tennessee Titans. Let me get. I want to try to get. This is fun. Let me get a couple more calls in. Ken in White House, you're up next on the drive. Hello, Ken.
Good morning, guys. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good, but it's afternoon. But go ahead.
I know that. Hey, just real quick, I think a lot of people are forgetting at the end of the day, this is a business. If the employer does not like the employee, they have the option to get rid of them. Just that simple. That's
Lord,
all
I know
got
that.
for you.
That's right. Had that happen a couple of times in my life. All right, listen, thank you, Ken. I think that's a good point. And let's get Stephen calling in from Paris. Hello, Stephen. You're on with Brian on the drive. Your thought.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, thanks. Glad to see Vrabel go. I've been hollering for him to them to get rid of him for the past 3 seasons. We definitely need an offensive coordinator. We need to build up our line. I hate the fact that they've gotten rid of so many of our great players for whatever the excuse was. I think Vrabel's his ego got a little bit too big for his britches. And as a new coach coming in, I'd like to see somebody try to reach out to Peyton Manning and maybe try to give him an offer and get him in. I think he would be a great asset for us. We could.
Wouldn't that be fun? But I got to tell you, Peyton Manning is doesn't want that kind of headache. Peyton Manning, he's got money in the bank and he's making money on a bunch of other stuff, and he's having the time of his life post football. I don't know that he would be all that interested. But boy, that would be fun. That'd be a lot of fun to watch. Can you imagine Coach Peyton Manning?
I would love that.
That would be such fun to watch.
Real quick, Brian. Peyton Manning has been talked about as a Vols head coach, and he said, "Why would I ever head coach there? They like me." And I think he'd have the same exact response with the Titans.
Good point. All right, listen, time for the news. Mac Morey is next with that. And Mac Morey will pick up the 5 o'clock hour. We'll do this all again with your analysis. We're moving the wide world of sports up to the top of the hour. Woo. So you don't want to miss that. Time for the news at 3:31.
Now 3:32, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Cloudy, 44 degrees. Wind advisory in effect until midnight tomorrow. Full weather forecast. Traffic report on the way. 5 minutes. The U.S. Secretary of State today rejected claims that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Andy Field with the latest on the Secretary's trip.
At a news conference in between meetings in Israel, Secretary of State Blinken reacting to claims against that country to the International Court of Justice.
The charge of genocide is meritless.
Secretary Blinken says those claims are made by Hamas and Hezbollah, who
openly call for the annihilation of Israel and the mass murder of Jews.
Mr. Blinken's Middle East trip trying to find a peaceful end to the war in Gaza and other conflicts.
Here in the volunteer state, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn co-sponsoring a bill which would create federal penalties for protesters who block public roads and highways. The bill is in response to pro-Palestinian protesters who have blocked roads. Blackburn's office. And now over to the FAA. They're saying today that Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft will remain grounded for now after an unused door blew off an Alaska Airlines MAX 9 last week in flight. Here's Alex Stone.
One day after giving airlines initial instructions for how inspection should be done to get Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft back into the air, today the FAA saying every 737 MAX 9 with a door plug like the one on the Alaska MAX 9 will remain grounded until the FAA finds each can safely return to flight. The FAA saying safety, not speed, will determine when the MAX 9 flies again. It comes after United and Alaska Airlines reported finding loose hardware in the door plug areas they've looked at.
And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It's 3:39 on a busy Tuesday afternoon. Brian Wilson in the chair. You're listening to The Drive, and we got a lot of stuff to cover here today. There was a big hearing in D.C. Of the appeals court, and at question was Donald Trump's assertion that when he was president of the United States, he had immunity protection. It all has to do with Jack Smith's investigation of Trump, alleging that the former president was somehow involved in inappropriate activities to change the outcome of the election or to stop the election from being certified, etc. And the president has said, well, number one, I was calling around and I had every right to do so. But number two, even if you think I did something wrong, I have immunity as president. And so Jack Smith asked the court to take it up, and so they did, and the court heard arguments today, and the former president says that, look, he thinks that it's very important for presidents to have some kind of immunity.
Well, I think it's very unfair when a political opponent, is prosecuted by the DOJ, by Biden's DOJ. So they're losing in every poll. They're losing in almost every demographic. It goes that it'll be bedlam in the country. It's a very bad thing. It's a very bad precedent. As we said, it's the opening of a Pandora's box, and it's a very sad thing that's happened with this whole situation. When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy. And I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple. And if